Let's go ahead and learn how to make this setup so you can begin working on your 24 patterns. Or 24 pattern elements, you'll probably have somewhere around 75 patterns. The number of patterns is not as important as the number of different elements. And I want you to experiment and learn through this process. So we'll hit Command N for a new document, and 149, but I did some math because I wanted these artboards to be the same length as this 1920 by 1080 preview panel. So if you trust me, I did a little elementary school math. 149 by 149, 24 artboards. Okay, 24. But we can't, and we'll just name this. So it's our first power patterns, and we can click on more settings because right now we're going to get defaults and we don't want the defaults. Click on more settings after setting this up here, and we're going to see we already have our name. Going to change the spacing to 12 pixels. We already have 24 artboards. The numbering, see this grid by row? This means 1 through 12, 13 through 24. And the columns, we want, these are columns, vertical. We want 12 of them. So those are the settings. Got it? Spacing's 12, columns are spacing's 12, columns are 12, and our width and height are 149. Create document. Boom, I'm going to hit Command minus a few times to get this down. Hold down the space bar to get the hand tool, move this down here. Now, with Smart Guides on, and I talked about snap to pixel, turning that on and off. If you have trouble aligning things and they just won't move exactly where you want, you can turn that off. But for right now, that's okay. We want to get the artboard tool right here, not the evil slice tool, the artboard tool. And you see this is our 24 artboards. I'm going to come here to it snaps right next to the left-hand side and then drag over to the right until it snaps, and you can see the width, my red circles covering it up, is 1920. Perfect. This isn't 1080 though. Rather than try to drag it there, why not use, there's the width, there's the height. Our registration point though, if we resize this, we have to know where we're resizing it from. We want the bottom to stay still. We want it to grow upwards. So you click on one of these registration points. It really doesn't matter because we're growing straight up. So we want to type 1080 here, hit return. Now this is the right size, and I'm pretty OCD, so I just use the downward pointing arrows to move this artboard down till it was kind of positioned with the exact same spacing as the other ones. When you click on another tool, the artboard's selected. Oh, there's too much space there. We can click on that and hit the down arrow a few more times. And there's still a few extra pixels, but I'm going to stop right there because that's just crazy. The artboard panel, again, it's under Windows. You want it here because you want to be able to see. Hey, and I renamed this last one. This is the only one I renamed. And notice when I double-clicked on it, it zoomed in on that artboard. So this was my pattern preview. Pattern preview artboard. And I know from fooling around with this, if I type 65, I get everything showing up. We'll come back to the layers and we'll name this pattern preview. And then on the pattern preview, we can draw out our white rectangle with no stroke. White rectangle, no stroke, and we're going to go ahead with it intersect on because we've got Smart Guides on and draw it out perfectly. And you can see it's 1920 by 1080. Just perfect. So that's where we're going to preview our patterns. Here's where we're going to build in these different artboards. Now I want to show you, if you notice that this is the last one I clicked on, if I head to artboards, artboard 3 is selected. Whichever artboard you click on is the active artboard. If you don't want to work this small, you can double click on this artboard and hey, it's huge. It's only 149 pixels square, but there it is. And now you can make your element. Now, I did a rectangle last time, but it was a solid rectangle. So if I click in the center, hold down Option and click, I can say, hey, how about 30 by 30? Click OK, and by Photoshop or Illustrator remembers our last setting. I want a black stroke and a white fill. So I want to swap, I want to click back on the default colors and then change this stroke from 1 pixel to maybe half a pixel, which Illustrator says, hey, no problem, I can do that. And then with our pattern, we can actually, I'm going to turn that fill off. I just want a stroke because that way we can see through it. We can recolor these patterns. So I'm going to click back on 65. Your computer may vary, your mileage may vary on the exact size. And now with this selected, I can begin. I showed you how to create the shortcut for making patterns, so I hope you're using it. I can begin to create my sets of patterns, and I'm just going to do a few. So right now, if I hit Escape and then come back out here, click on the pattern preview, and click on this, we have our graph paper. And that's what I showed you yesterday. So again, don't go through those. If I switch Illustrator files, don't go through all the steps I did here. Just do a few variations on a theme, and the square and the square with a single constant line around it, those are taken. So move on to other elements. You have the entire world of geometry at your fingertips. Have some fun with this. Make about 3 different patterns for each one of your elements and just see what you discover. And you can, of course, make more than 3, but the important thing is the number of different patterns. And remember, when you move to a new artboard, that's where you're drawing. So if you want to do something from there, like draw out from the center, and whatever it is you're going to do, and hey, it doesn't show up, it doesn't have a stroke color, so we can click here and click on black and make that half a pixel. And the reason for half a pixel, it just looks a little better. Maybe sometimes you were going to think a different version might look better. So now we can click on that and make a pattern. And what happens with these lines? A little too close together at 2 pixels. But what if we take it out to maybe 10? What happens? And the way we see what happens is to click here and then just click on our pattern. Whoops. We have to get out of the pattern dialog box. Sorry about that. Hit Escape to get out of there. And then click on our pattern so we can see our little pinstripes. Endless opportunities for creativity here. Have a blast with this. Stay simple. Don't get too complicated. We'll move into organic soon enough. But I hope you're starting to see the potential. And the potential now to use actions to adjust those pinstripes on the fly and create our patterns with a click of a button.